Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. I hope that you're all doing good. Tonight is going to be a very special night, a very interesting night, a little bit of a different situation tonight because we're going to be hanging out for a little while with the one, the only Jimmy Reyes. Jimmy, feel free to introduce yourself.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, Jimmy Reyes. I like long walks on the beach. I don't mind cuddling. No, I'm just kidding. No,
Easy.
thank you so much. I really appreciate you letting me come out here. Get to talk to your audience and get to hang out here. This is the first time that you and I have
Yeah.
actually gotten to interact.
I know, it's crazy. I've followed you and your project for a while, but it's finally time for some action. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was super cool. You're so nice, and I watch your videos, and I follow you as well, and I love your videos, and I wanted to reach out to you, and I thought, hey, I haven't interacted with Vara yet, and I thought, maybe I almost chickened out. I thought, I'm gonna send her a
Oh,
DM.
no, don't chicken out. See? Because now we're here. We get to chat for a while. We get to hang out. Everything will be fine. Don't worry. Chat will only bully you a little bit, I'm sure.
Oh, oh, no, no, I want to feel like family. You got to bully me a lot. Got to be aggressive like family.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and your project?
Yeah, thank you. For those that may not know, I mean, they're wondering like, who is this guy that's on Vera's stream? My name is Jim Reyes. I was a comic book inker in the industry, and I broke in the industry back in 1991. I grew up very very poor. When I say poor, like think of the starving kids in the third world country. Like I mean, they sponsored me. Like we were really poor, big family, so I didn't know anything about art. I didn't know anything about pop culture, comic books, or anything. All I'd ever got to see was a few shows that would come on, basic television. We didn't even have cable, so
Right.
so I didn't discover comics until a very late age. I didn't even know I could draw, and I was about 18 years old, and I got adopted by my sister, and she ran into some money, and I moved up to an upper middle class neighborhood, and I got to move around, be around kids that had Nintendos and collected comic books, and it was great. It was a whole new world for me, discovering
Yeah.
pop culture.
Right. Well, it's better late than never to get into it and to experience things for the first time, entertainment, all that.
Yeah, yeah. Some in the chat says like ramen cup noodle broke. No,
Yeah.
like could like potted meat broke. Like that was like I wished I had ramen noodles. That was fancy. Like ooh.
Right.
I'd ask my mom, can we have ramen noodles? She's like, what do you think we're rich? What is wrong with
Right.
you? Enjoy your potted
Well,
meat.
yeah. I mean, sometimes you start off life with not as much as you'd obviously like, but
Yeah.
see, you built a great career for yourself thus far. It's only up from here.
Yeah, thank you. And I think the reason I share my story and I let everybody know like where it began, it's not to bring people down or anything, but just I hope that inspires people to let them know. I mean, I didn't know anything about art, didn't know I could draw, and I was getting ready to graduate high school, and I was about to become a father. I was about to have my first child, and it was time to grow up. Because I was
Right.
I was I was rushing into adulthood. So my first wife, we had just gotten married, and she's like, well, it's time for a job. And I thought, wow, okay, and I said, well, I really like artwork, but I had only been drawing for 6 months. I had just discovered comics, just discovered I could kind of draw.
Wow. Yeah.
And so she encouraged me, put together a portfolio, let's set up an interview, let's do this.
Yeah.
And I was scared. I was chickening out, but I love
Oh,
to
yeah, I'm
draw.
sure.
So I love to draw, and I was putting together, just what I thought, publishers wanted to see. I had no idea, what they wanted to see. So my ex-wife, who was, we were both teenagers, we were just these young teenagers about to have a baby. She calls up a local company, Antarctic Press, calls them up and says, hey, I've got some artwork I want to show. Can I set up an interview? They go, absolutely. Come on down. Come on down. So we set up the interview for the next morning. We get to the office to the Antarctic Press, and right before I go in the door, I chicken out and I get real nervous. I'm getting anxiety,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm a kid, and I tell my ex-wife, my wife at the time, and I tell her, give me a minute here. Let me catch my breath. And she goes, all right, no problem. I'm gonna go inside, let them know you're here, and I said, here, take my portfolio with me, in case they want to go through it.
Yeah.
So I guess I took a little longer out there catching my breath and getting my nerve together, because by the time I got in there, the entire office is surrounded around
Ooh.
my, surrounded around my ex-wife, and they're just admiring and just complimenting her portfolio. Nobody even noticed that I walked in and stood behind the group of about 18 guys. 1991, there were no girls really working
Right.
at Antarctic Press. And so she's there showing the portfolio. They're raving and complimenting the artwork. And I lean in into the conversation, and I said, wow, thank you. And they look at me like, who's this guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why are you taking her compliments?
I can
Okay.
imagine. I can imagine it.
So I just kind of stay quiet. They just keep going. They're asking her questions, and then she's just goes, I don't know. Let me ask. My husband's right here, and they kind of like confused. They give us this weird look. So I think they finally realized I was the guy applying, not,
You're the guy.
yeah, that it wasn't a female artist coming in. This really
Right.
cute young woman coming through, and applying to draw there and work there with them. So they kind of all just went like, ah, and then they all just kind of walk
Yep.
away and go back to their desks.
A little bit of disappointment there.
Yeah, I let.
You broke some hearts that day.
Yeah, they were really disappointed. And so Ben Dunn, the publisher, he walks down the hallway, comes out of his office, and he says, come on back, come on back. And my ex-wife said, she goes, I'll wait here. I'll wait right here for you. And I said, okay. And Ben's like, don't worry, we won't be long. It won't take too long. So I'm putting together my portfolio, grabbing it, walking, following Ben down the hallway. And I walk to this like open room, and there's like this huge, it's a bullpen, and there's tons of artists. And as soon as you walk in, this is 1991, it's the big nerds. So
Yeah.
when you walk in, that aroma hits you. You're in a comic book studio. When it smells a little like fajitas and armpit,
Oh,
and
I think we've all been there a few times.
yeah, it's a little earthy kind of smell. You just walk in, you're like, whew, it hits you, and everybody's at their desk. Nobody really cares that I'm walking through, and I walked to the back with Ben Dunn, and he was getting ready to launch a new book at the time. And I walk in. He says, "Here, put your stuff down right here on the coffee table." He moves over the set of magazine and catalogs of like leather whips and leather mask and those ball gags. Tons of these magazines on his desk, and he just kind of off the coffee table, and he moves them over. I put my portfolio down on there, and he says, "Come on over and sit with me here at my drafting table." And I'm just thinking, like, what did I just walk into? Like, what is this?
Yeah, it's not like that anymore.
I had no idea, like what they even published. That's how little I
Well,
knew. Like I was there, I was really faking it.
yeah.
And so Ben sits there and he starts to, talk to me, and he starts telling me, I like your work. I saw your portfolio. Because we were going through it on the coffee table a little bit before he had me come over to his drafting table.
Just a light conversation.
Yeah, yeah. But the whole time, I'm just thinking, like, wow, like, how do I work that in the conversation? Like, hey, is this what y'all publish?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
this what I'm going to be drawing? Which I'm not totally against it. Hey,
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, to each their own.
right? Yeah, I'm not judging. And so he was asking me, hey, he leaned over and he said, hey, do you know what the Guyver is? Because I'd like you to do a cover. There's this character called the Guyver, and will you draw that for us? And I said, yeah, I love the Guyver. That I love it. And he goes, and he looks at me like, okay. And he goes, yeah,
Yeah, sure.
yeah. I think he read right through me right away. I was just,
Oh,
I'm
of
just this
course.
enthusiastic young kid. And so he said, here it is. Here is some Bristol board. He goes, I noticed you're drawing on paper. We don't want you drawing on paper. So here's some Bristol
Right.
board. And it was paper, by the way, that I stole. Like, cause I was still in high school,
Right.
and I would steal it from the copy machine, cause I would work in the office at my high school. So I was stealing paper from the coffee the copy machine to draw on because I really didn't have any supplies. And so he gives me Bristol board. I get the Bristol board, and he says, "All right, come on, bring it back in because I need it in a couple of days. I give you about 3 days. Is that good enough?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll bring it in tomorrow." Real
Cool.
enthusiastic, you know.
Yeah, that's a late night. That's for sure.
I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing, the amount of work that was going to go into it. So I walked back down past the bullpen, past the fajitas and the under armpit, and it smelled like old fajita tacos were left out there. And
Whew.
so I cut through. I go down the hallway, and there's the guys again. They're all around her, just chatting, talking with her. And it takes a few minutes. I kind of cut through the 12 or, it was a big group of guys that were there talking with her. I lean over and I was like, "Hey," and she goes, "How'd it go?" I said, "Great." And so she's like, "All right, so we're getting ready to head out. We walk out the front door." And she goes, "So it went great." And I said, "Yeah, I got a job." And I was so excited, so
Oh yeah,
excited.
that is so exciting.
It is. I mean, just to land your first work that is going to go into comic stores.
Right.
I was super excited, and we were walking out of into the parking lot, and she said to me, "Cool. So what is it?" And I said, "I'm supposed to draw some character, Gaver, Guyver, Geezer. I don't really remember, but I'm supposed to draw it." And I hear a laugh, a chuckle right behind me, and a lighter flicker go, and like a Zippo lighter, like, and this guy's lighting his cigarette. And I look back at him, and he laughs, and he goes, "You can get reference." He goes, "Go right down the street right here." He goes, "There's a comic book store. Just go right down the road, take a right. You can't miss it right at the next light. We're so close to a comic store. Go in there and ask them for it. You can get reference for it."
Right.
So we drive down there, walk into the comic store, and my ex-wife walked in, and she's like, "Oh my God, like, she's like, what an adventure. We got to go to nerd headquarters. Now here we are. Now here we are, and in the comic book store, I mean, it smelled great. It smelled like paper and body odor.
Yeah.
It was awesome. We walk in there, two kids behind the counter, really, really heavy set kids. That were, well, they were my age. I was a teenager, so I call them kids now because I'm old, but we were all
Well,
about
it's okay.
we were all about the same age. I walked in and I asked the kid behind the counter, and I said, "Hey, I'm here to pick up a comic book. I mean, I'm looking for a certain comic book. It's called The Gaver." And he goes, "Ee," and he laughed like the nerdiest laugh in my, that I've ever heard, and it stuck in my head. And he's like a weird, really strange laugh that I can't really imitate, but I can hear it in my
Yeah.
head. And my wife at the time, she says to me, she looks at me, she goes, "I'm gonna go look around," because she was like, "This is just weird."
Yeah.
So she goes to look around, and everybody in the store is just staring at her because she was the only female in the store, and there was about, it was a group about 5 or 6 in the store at the time. She's the only girl, and people are just staring at her. And the kid behind the counter, behind the register, laughs, calls over another kid, and he says, "Listen to this, listen to this. What book are you looking for?" And I said, "The Geezer." And they laugh again. I'm getting picked on by the nerdiest kids, you know. And it had never happened to me before. And I thought, wow, like I'm in the twilight zone, This
Yeah.
is crazy. So then he looks at me, and when he stopped, he finally gathers himself after laughing, and he says, "It's a manga." And I
Yeah.
went, "Okay." And he goes, "And it's Bio Booster Guyver." And I went, "That one. I
Yep.
want that one."
Yep. That sounds perfect. Give it to me.
That was my introduction into the professional world of comic books. So I buy the manga at $12.99. That was very expensive, 1991. It was a really thick book. So I buy it at $12.99. My pay back in 1991 for my first work was only $50
Right. And then you had to pay on top of that for the actual reference
for
material.
the reference.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, But it was such a strange interaction that I had that entire day. It was a great adventure that I had that I never forgot it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I'd be able to forget something like that either. I don't think most people would, to be honest.
Yeah, and then I got to work around, being around the guys that were really hardcore manga and anime, and I was really into Western comics, and they introduced me into, artists like Masamune Shirow and just tons of other Japanese mangakas, out there, and they taught me a whole lot, because all I would do was just study artists like Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, like that. That was my world.
Oh yeah.
So with them showing me comic books that were outside of the U.S., it helped expand my influence.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a started from the bottom story, but just looking at, where your career ended up leading you from just that one story, it's crazy. I mean, you've been very successful in your career.
Oh, thank you. I very very fortunate. I mean, I've gotten to work with. I started out as a penciler. I penciled in ink and was drawing, and people there in the studio at Antarctic Press noticed that I could ink my own work, and so they started asking me, "Hey, do you mind inking me, helping me out?" They didn't know how to ink, so they would go, "Hey, I really like your inks. Can you ink?" And then I just started doing that, and then next thing I know, I started getting picked up with bigger and bigger companies and getting more and more work
Right.
as an inker, to the point where I ended up working on Avengers for
Yeah.
Marvel. And then I get to work with artists. I'm still, from time to time, I still work with David Finch. Dave Finch and I have done quite a bit. I get to ink him. And so I've had a really great time working in comic books. Although I only worked part time, I didn't go full time in
Mm.
the comic books, where I was doing about 4 to 6 books a year, where I could have done a lot more than that.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, I think most people, when they're starting something, until they feel they've reached that point where they could go full time, they don't, because they're worried about failure and what it will look like if, they set themselves up for,
Yeah.
success, and they convince themselves they're going to be extremely successful. And then ultimately it might not go anywhere.
Well, when you freelance, you're work for hire.
Right.
You get no benefits or
Yeah, no.
anything unless you get an exclusive contract where you're more of an employee. So, having children and a mortgage, I couldn't do it. I couldn't. So I worked as a web developer. And that was my primary job. So it was really strange, because I would go in to work and at the time it was an advertising agency that had a web development department, and I'd go work there, and it was a totally different environment than when I'd go hang out with my comic book friends. With comic book friends, it was definitely, it was more relaxed. It was a lot more fun,
Yeah.
and I like it. Where when I was working, in the ad agency, we were dealing with multi-million-dollar accounts, and there were a lot more suits there. But it also gave me it gave me a good work ethic. It also taught me how to work professionally, how to be professional when the time comes when I need to. You know,
Right.
yeah, but it was good too to be in have both worlds. I think it kept me from losing my mind.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, all experience is still experience at the end of the day, even if, of course, you're doing whether it's one project a year or five projects a year. And obviously, I mean, it's definitely paid off for you.
Yeah, I liked the fact that I got to work on Ghostbusters. I got to work on, like, at the time there was a video game franchise called Blood Rain,
Yep.
and that was like a new game that was coming
I
out.
love
And
Blood Rain.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I got to work on that comic book, Starship Troopers, which I was a big fan of the Starship Troopers franchise, and getting to work on a bunch of different things that people have heard of and had seen, and it was really great, where people would tell me, whoa, I've seen your work, and I'd go,
Yeah.
wow, really? It's just, I just think, like, because there I was, working in my living room at the time, and I was working in a little corner, and there really wasn't, for most of it in the '90s, there really wasn't a whole lot of internet interaction. you know.
Well, right. Now things are so different because it's primarily internet interaction. And I'm sure that, it might even still surprise you to see people just randomly posting threads on social media about your work and being like, hey, that's me.
Yeah, yeah. I got to work on Power Rangers not too long ago with Dave Finch and I. We did a cover for the Power Rangers Shattered Grid #25 book that it's crazy, because whenever I run into some people, at conventions, they have this book and they're just huge Power Ranger fans, and I go, wow, like I mean, I'm excited to be part of something that was so big and that meant something to someone.
Oh, yeah, to so many people.
Yeah, yeah, they're, and then the thing is, like, people will ask me a lot of questions because they're like, "Oh, you started on Sentai, I've got some of your first work. You started with the Guyver, and now you're on Power Rangers, and they want to talk Power Rangers with me." And I'm like, "Oh, that's about all I know on Power Rangers. It's
Right.
just that one issue.
Right. Just what you've worked on.
Yeah,
Out
yeah.
of everything you have worked on, what would you say is I don't want to say the best or the most memorable experience for you, or like the one that you were most excited for before you did it when you were told you were going to be doing it?
Well, I think for me I had left comics for about 10 years.
Yeah.
I There was a time from, I think, 2007 to about 2016. I had, around that time, I had left comics, and I was just doing stuff here and there, but not really a whole lot. Just stuff to help out friends when they would call me. And I decided, I want to start doing something on YouTube. I want to share my experience, my knowledge. So I decided to start doing tutorials on YouTube. And then I get an email, because my email is attached to my YouTube channel, which I'm
Right.
sure a lot of us, we all do. But and so I get an email, and it says that it's from Meredith Finch, and it says, Dave Finch, or she just said Dave. She said, Dave came across your YouTube channel, saw that you were inking some of his work, and he'd like to know if you're available. Are you available to work with him?
Yeah.
And I thought I was getting punked,
Well, right.
because they left the number in the email. And I went, man, now if I call this number, what if, like, they're just trying to fish for my information or
Well,
something? What if,
right. What if it's someone completely different, absolutely trying to trick me? Now they've got my information. I've handed it to them willingly.
yeah, yeah, I'm like, I can't make fun of grandma no more. Grandma, you're not supposed to be,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
telling everybody your social security number.
Right.
And then here I was, but no, so I sat there with my cell phone and I thought about it for quite a while, maybe about 30 minutes total. And then I finally just went, you know what? All right. I hit send, and the phone starts ringing, and then the phone answers, and it's Meredith. And she says, hello. And I said, hi, this is Jimmy. You emailed me that day. She goes, oh, yeah, hold on. Let me go get Dave. Now, I've heard Dave Finch's voice, like people that are watching us, I've heard my voice, and I'm sure if I call you on the phone, you'd probably recognize my voice.
Right.
So hearing Dave on tons of interviews and watching him on live streams, and I mean, not live streams, but on videos, I was like, oh my God, this sounds just like Dave. If it's a prank, it's really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he just said to me, he goes, hey, I got some covers. I love your work. He goes, I love what you're doing, your inking style. Your work reminds me of Matt Banning. Bat was the inker that he had for a long time. He says, your work reminds me so much of his. And I'd like to know if you would ink me. I got a cover. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll no problem. He said, all right, well, we're going to send that out to you. And I said, okay. He goes, just email us your address. And I'm going, I hope this is real.
Well,
Still
yeah.
a little bit of doubt in the back.
Risky.
Yeah, because this is David Finch,
But imagine if you hadn't done it. Imagine if you hadn't taken that step and you were so hesitant you didn't end up doing it. Your life would look very different right now.
It would. It really,
Yeah.
it would have gone differently. And so, I go ahead and I send Dave I reply to the email, sending my address. And I was just kind of nervous. And in the reply email, it says, all right, we're going to send it next day. And I was like, wow, next day? He goes, yeah, you should get it within 2 days. And we need you to ink it. When you're done with it, let us know, and we'll have FedEx pick it up, and we'll get it back out to the publisher.
Yeah.
And I was like, great, great. And So here I was, every hour, every minute, just sitting around thinking about this project that's going to come in, and it made the time just go so slow.
Oh, yeah. It's just that anxiety. I mean, I don't know how long it was, how long of a span of time it was, but it could probably feel like a million years at that point.
Yeah, yeah. So at the time, I was going through my second divorce.
Oof,
And so
rough.
my parents were over visiting for moral support.
Yeah.
They were coming over for dinner, and my mom walks in, and she walks in. I'm over in the back, still drawing. My parents come in. I had no idea that FedEx had arrived. It arrived early the next day, and
Yeah.
the package had been sitting out there. I had no idea. My mom grabs it, didn't know what it was, brings it in, puts it down with her stuff, and puts it on the couch. Walks over to where I am. They're talking with me. So I hang out with my parents for a couple of hours. We're having dinner, and my mom said, "Oh, by the way, you got a package." And I said, "What do you mean a package? Where is it?" And I run outside to go look. I ran right past it, ran outside, and I'm looking around like, "No, this is my. How do I explain to Dave Finch? He shipped me original artwork, and somebody stole it. I'm freaking out, and my mom's like, "Oh, I put it on the couch." Like, "Oh my god."
Mom, what the heck? Don't touch my stuff, Mom.
I got so mad. I sent my parents home. Go home, mom. Go, dad. I don't
Oh,
even want to look at you right
oh,
now.
that hurts. Poor mom. My goodness, just trying to be helpful.
Yeah, my poor mom. No, no. I mean, I've got a. My mom's indigenous. My dad's Latin. So yeah, yeah. You can't. You got to respect those people. They don't let you. There's no talking back to those people. But yeah, so they, my parents. I was telling them how excited I was, and I said, hey, after dinner, I really got to get started on this. I really want to get this done. I'm super excited. This is a big break for me, but it really was. And so I finished the project. Dave says, "Great. Put together your invoice. Send it over to the publisher, and just tell them what you want to get paid." And I went, "Hey, I've never done anything at this level.
Right.
Um, what should I ask for?" Because I said, "This is what my rate has been. I've been inking for smaller companies. I hadn't worked for Marvel yet,
Right.
and Power Rangers at the time was Boom Studios, but I was still a smaller guy at the time." So Dave said, he goes, "No, this rate's too low. No, I'll send him your rate." And I said, "Oh, okay." So then I end up getting a payment from Boom Studios 3 times what I used to get.
Whew.
So
That must have been really nice, but shocking.
it was, and I went, "Oh my god! Like, how did he talk these guys into this?" And every job I did with Dave from that point on, I was getting paid. I mean, just way more than what I used to, and I just went, wow, like this is amazing, and then Dave said, "Oh, by the way, I already have somebody who wants to buy the original art. I've sold it for 7,000. I'm going to split it with you." And I went, "Well, how much did you sell it for?" Oh
Yeah.
my god! Like,
Yeah.
and then here I was getting original Dave Finch art that already had a market for it, and so he was so great. He would go, instead of me splitting one in every three, I'll just give you every other.
Yeah.
And he didn't have to do that. It was just so great. And then from that point on, working with somebody like Dave, who was so big, who has so much influence in the industry at that point, it was like I was still working with some of the same people, but the way they looked at my work was so different.
Right.
It just changed the whole image, overnight for me.
Yeah. I mean, that is it's definitely, I'm sure at the moment was surreal, and it's crazy to hear about now all these years later, seeing, again, what you've done and what you are doing, what you plan to do because of those opportunities.
Yeah, it definitely opened up a lot of doors for me. And because, people were going, "Oh, this is, guy inking David Finch. He's got to be good." And I started to get a lot more compliments on my work, a lot more offers, things like that. And then, unfortunately, we got to the pandemic shortly after. So
Yeah.
I had a few good years there that were, things were just so great. But in the pandemic, they let me know right away. All the publishers, they all let me know that I was expendable as an inker.
Right. Right.
They were like, irreplaceable. You know,
It's unfortunate.
yeah, the whole attitude, everything, it just changed and it crashed, and it left a really bitter taste, in my mouth. You know, the way that I was treated at that point. You know, and where and then I was also used as bait for from some of the bigger publishers would go, hey, we've got some great work. You know, we need some inkers. Right before the pandemic, they were like, hey, we got some work. We'd like to bring you in. Do you think Dave would want to come over with you? Because he knew that
Right.
Dave
Because they
was,
knew that you had connections to him and you two were relatively close.
yeah. And so they, at the point where, and then when they would talk with Dave, he would, he politely let them know he was already working for another publisher. He was working on another project. He was unavailable, So when they saw that he wasn't available, they just ghosted me. They
Right.
just stopped talking to me. And then that was right when the pandemic hit and it got even worse.
Which is,
So
it's so unfortunate that everything had happened kind of right around that same time.
yeah, it all just came crumbling down, like right at that time, and I just thought, well, you know, um, you know, it's all right. I had fun. It was good while it lasted, and I was just sitting through the pandemic, and I saw people were doing live streams, and I said, well, I want to do that. I want to set up and do live streams, and I can show people how I draw and show people that I can draw, because most people didn't know I could draw,
Right.
because I was an inker, and they just assume inkers are tracers. They're like,
Right.
inkers
I
can't
mean,
draw.
right. I mean, I can understand why someone might not understand how much time and effort and how much, honestly, originality has to go into it because you also have to see the vision, even though it's not your own vision.
Yeah, you have to have a basic understanding of art, the basic
Right.
fundamentals and how things work, form and shape and things. And so I started up a live stream, started, doing my artwork. And then I found people that were crowdfunding, and they all
Yeah.
said, they started asking me, hey, would you mind coming helping me out, do some ink work? And so I got into the crowdfunding scene, where I started working for people that were putting out their own books. So I started inking for them. And then I started to think, hey, I can do this, you
Yeah.
know? And I thought, so I started researching and asking people, like, what is it? Like, how do you crowdfund? How does this really work? And I just decided to take the leap. I decided, I finished up my obligations as an inker and said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And thankfully, I had a lot of really good friends that contributed and helped me out.
Oh, yeah.
And here in this campaign, I launched Dragon Rage back in 2020, and I completed that project and we fulfilled it. So people don't know that they may not know. I mean, even though it says campaign one, this is the first campaign under my name. I had done previous campaigns where we published under the banner Page One Comics, and we had two projects and we fulfilled them both. And when I announced that I was going to be doing this, David Finch said, "Hey, I'm going to give you a cover," and
Yeah.
because and I know that I can't afford Dave Finch's page rate, because it's
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of dollars to get a cover from him.
Right.
And here he was. He just said, "Yeah, I'm gonna do this for you. I'm going to give you a cover." And that was back in 2020 when I did that first campaign.
Right.
So come this campaign, I was getting ready to launch, and I have a friend of mine that is humongous on YouTube. He's got 26 million subscribers on his channel, and people probably know who I'm talking about, but I don't want to. I haven't formally announced it yet. But he's an artist. He's a legitimate artist. He's very, very talented, and he and I have done work before together. We've been published together. And he said to me, he said, "Hey, I want to give you a cover." He asked, "Can I do a cover for your book?" And I went, "Oh my God, this is a guy with 26 million subscribers on YouTube, more than Netflix has on
Whew.
YouTube."
Yeah.
And so he did. He did a cover for me. It's not in this campaign yet, because he just finished it not too long ago, a few weeks back, and I'm having it colored, and so it's being colored right now. And oh, my beautiful wife, Anna Havana back here. And so that book's being colored, but in my next campaign, I'm going to have this cover in there, and he's going to help me promote it as well. So having friends like that are very, very successful, willing to take the time to help out somebody like me, who I was basically really a nobody in the industry, as I was an inker, and especially the way things ended in 2018 with the pencils down movement. And I was reminded that I was nobody by the industry, but not to my friends and my peers.
No, not to your friends, your peers, the internet. Of course, the internet never forgets, and the internet does not forget good artists and creatives, and that's for sure.
Yeah, and the fact that having their support and people like that, it gave me the courage to take the leap forward, because when you go into crowdfunding, you really are truly independent. There's no financial backing, there's no corporate, there's no safety net.
There's not.
And the thing is, there's hundreds of people crowdfunding, and so how do you get noticed? And you have to do a lot of guerrilla marketing, a lot of legwork. You just do whatever it takes to catch the attention of potential backers.
Yeah.
And we rely a lot on, people like you that are willing to, take the time to allow me to come on here and to share with your audience, and I greatly appreciate it, each and everybody, no matter, I've been on channels where they've only had like 2-3 subscribers on it.
Yeah.
To me, it doesn't matter how big the channel is. I'm thankful for each and every one.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, obviously, I have not put out a paid product like you are, started a campaign, but I mean, building, this YouTube channel to the point where I can now support creators like you and artists and, whatever kind of creative they are, whether they're, a writer or an inker. It's great to have this support. And it's not just me giving you my platform, it's me giving you their platform as well.
Oh, thank you. I was excited when I knew you replied back. You said, "Hey, sure.
Yeah.
I'll take the time to come on." I was like, "Wow," because I run a YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and it's it's a decent channel, and I go, I know what it's like, because people ask me, to take time out, and I know that we've got our own content and things that we're doing, and we're busy, and I'm just grateful that right now, Dragon Rage, that I've got 670 people that have taken the leap of faith with me.
I have
Because
one of them. I have
oh,
that,
thank you.
and so should you, chat.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Because when I'm asking people, to make a financial contribution, I realize that, I mean, $25 is a lot of money, but I want people to know that, I mean, I take it very, very seriously. This is what I want to do professionally. This is what I've done professionally, but this is a business for me. This is a startup company. And I'm
Yeah.
asking people to, to make a contribution with their hard earned money, to know that the funds that they've contributed go into the company. They're going into the company. And of course, I mean, I do want to make a living doing this, but I want people to know that, I work hard every day on this project. And so this project has been a bit of a struggle, for me. It's been
Yeah.
a lot of work, but then I was also diagnosed 6 months back with heart failure, and I almost died. So
It's tough. I'm sorry to hear that.
yeah, it was crazy. So I took 6 months off, of from the book, and yet I'm still, I'm back and I'm working hard, and I've completed all 40 pages. All the pencil work, which is the hardest part of the book. All 40 pages are done. They're penciled. All I got to do now is ink, and we know I can ink. That's what I did.
That'll take no time. That's
Yeah.
lickety split.
Yeah, so this project has meant so much to me. This is something that it means a whole lot to me, because not only was it scary to put out my own book, and to have my friends and everybody came in and offer support, but on top of that, to realize that, what, I almost died during this project, and I got a second chance.
Right.
It's like, so I want to make this the best book that I can put out, that I can produce right now.
Well, that's because you care about your craft. And of course, you care about the people that have already, taken that leap of faith with your work and are supporting you. You don't want to disappoint them, and that shows. And I think that is probably a big reason why so many people, are supporting you and believe in your art, because you're not someone who is easily gives up, and that's very clear with your story.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I was having a conversation with my mom this afternoon, and she was kind of saying the same thing to me. She's like, you've always been a fighter. You've
Yeah.
never, you've never given. I mean, things just don't really take you down. You just keep going. And I thought it was nice because we were talking because my mom might be, she may have cancer, and so
Oof.
she, yeah, so it's pretty rough.
That's tough. Yeah.
I'm a cancer survivor, and I had cancer, which is what caused the heart failure. I'm a cancer survivor, and my mom was the one that took me to my treatments and was there for me when I was going through my treatments. And so now it might be, I mean, now it might be time for me to repay that, but I'm hoping that, she doesn't, but we were having
Right.
that, but
Hopefully that's not the case, of course.
yeah, yeah, and it was kind of neat to realize now, now that my mom's a senior, she's in her 80s. I mean, I'm almost 50. I'm about to turn 50, so we're old now. But it's just kind of neat to kind of be that inspiration for my mom. I thought, where she's like, you fought through it. You're a fighter.
Right.
You,
She was your support at one point. Now it's, your turn to support her as much as you can.
yeah, so I guess it's just kind of, part of me, I'm torn where I go, I want to be her support, but at the same time, I don't want her to have to go through it.
Well, right,
Ever.
of course. At the at
Yeah.
the at the end of the day, we can only hope that she doesn't have to go through something like that.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. And so the project here, with this book, it means a whole lot to me. My art means a lot to me. And I want to make it the best that I can. Because being an artist as well, I mean, I get sometimes I get people that will say, "Wow, you seem pretty humble as an artist," but don't let that fool you. I can be competitive.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
I want to be the best. I want to be the best at what I do. I want my art to be the best. And what's really really important to me are those 670 backers out there. When they get my book, I want them to be amazed. I want them to feel that that $25 or whatever that they contributed was well worth it. You
Yeah.
know, for one, they're making my dream come true, and for the second thing too is this is how I feed my family. Is how I support my family is by artwork.
Right. Well, hopefully, I mean, obviously, it's been successful so far, and hopefully, over the next couple of weeks, you can get a ton more backers and a ton more support. That obviously is the goal. I know that, again, I said it, I am already a backer, and hopefully, some people in chat, will see your work, maybe for the first time if they haven't already. But I know I love a good comic, but I'm also a fantasy novel reader, which is a big reason why a lot of
Oh,
your work really
yeah,
kind of drew me in. I love Raymond E. Feist, George R. R. Martin. I'm a Tolkien lover.
yeah,
Robert Jordan, Anne McCaffrey is a name that I think should be more recognized in the industry. And of course, I wanted to have you on the channel because we are not just a community of comic fans, but also we're fantasy fans. And I
wow,
think
yeah.
your book really brings together kind of the best of both worlds, and that's why so many people would be interested in it.
Yeah, when it came time to create a comic book, I went flipping through the crowdfunding pages and to see what were people doing.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to bring down any other projects or anything, but at the time when I was getting ready to create Dragon Rage, I saw that people were just doing their version of Batman, their version of the X-Men. They were,
Right.
and I thought, I want to do something that I want to fill the void, just where things are lacking. And right
Yeah.
now in the mainstream in Western comics, where in manga we have there's a wide diversity in genre. You know,
Right.
like no matter what you're into, there's a manga for that. I mean, if you're into
Oh
feet,
yeah.
there's a manga for feet. I mean,
That is definitely true.
there's manga for everything, and they have subgenres and they have all kinds of stuff. And so I thought, well, you know what? There's not at the time there wasn't much fantasy out there
Right.
that people weren't crowdfunding. I said, why not? Fantasy is the biggest genre out there in pop culture today, in movies, video games, books.
Oh yeah.
Why are comics so far behind?
Right.
In this. So I thought, I'm going to create something that I love, things that I've loved, and I'm a Texan, and so, Conan was, the big thing for us here in Texan, for
Yeah.
in Texas, and so I grew up reading a lot of that, Solomon Kane, and reading a lot of these different books, and I love a lot of that stuff, and so I said, I'm going to do fantasy, and
Yeah.
I'm also going back to my first influence, my first professional work was Antarctic Press, and so I'm heavily influenced by anime,
Yeah.
and so I thought I'm going to incorporate the two things that I like. I like the high fantasy of anime, and I also like, some of this, kind of a European medieval fantasy that we see, like in, kind of like Game of Thrones. Although that's high fantasy as well, but we see that in a lot of those kind of stories in Excalibur and all that. And I thought I'm gonna mesh the two together.
Yeah, I mean it's worth a shot. I feel like when it comes to you mentioned anime and of course manga, a lot of Japanese creatives are not afraid to take something like a billboard, right, and write 100 different words that they could use as plot elements and kind of throw darts at the board and come up with this random combination of them, and then of course go and write and make the art. And that's something that I think American comic or the American comic industry, would never really do. And I think that you would agree that kind of lack of
Yeah.
vision that the mainstream has is kind of holding them back at this point.
I think so. I think that's what's really hurting a lot of Western comics is going. Why is manga so successful?
Yeah.
I mean, for one, is because the Western comics are so it's so not well, it's oversaturated with superheroes. I mean, there's all kinds of superheroes, and a lot of times it becomes just so redundant. It's the same superhero trope over and over again. And then, I think people kind of get tired of that. And the younger readers really are branching out. They're looking for something different, something out there. And that's why I think manga is much more successful. So for me, I think, I think it should be about the creativity. I think it should be, let your imagination run and don't let what the current industry, the past of the history of the industry dominate and, decide what your creativity is going to be, decide, whatever it is you like, whatever it is that you want to create, and, put that out there.
Yeah.
And my audience will start to find it. I know right now I put my book out there and I'm not the biggest campaign out there because everybody out there is just so used to, they want to find another style Batman. They're like, but this isn't like Batman. That's exactly the point.
Well,
but
right. Yeah,
but
and I
there's
I
yeah.
definitely think also, another problem that we see that I talk about a lot on this channel is how there is this lack of originality in American comic books right now, but also because these companies are afraid that the content that a creative might produce may not fit the message. And obviously the message is extremely prominent now, and I know you've talked about how you want your book to appeal to fantasy audiences and not just comic audiences, but you look at things like The Witcher, Dungeons and Dragons, Game of
Yeah.
Thrones, and there are companies in that sphere like Wizards of the Coast that have certainly focused on the message and generally extremely like woke products. And then you have Netflix taking The Witcher and their showrunners disrespecting the source material. But I think that we need more projects like yours kind of in the world, because not only are they unique, but also that's not what you're worried about, and that's why so many indies are being supported right now.
Yeah, it should be, like I said, I mean, I want my story focus, to be character driven. I want it to focus on the story, and I want to be creative. I mean, there is no agenda, when writing, creating Dragon Rage. And I did partner up with a writer. I went out and got a writer, and I had a long discussion I was very picky on the writer that I was going to pick, because I want to make sure that that person and I, we have the same, that we have the same vision. It's a shared vision, and we both understand, and we're not gonna that there isn't going to be any kind of hidden narrative or no agenda or anything in the book. And So he and I just thought, we just want to make great characters. And the thing about Dragon Rage is that we're not afraid to have masculine male characters in our book.
Yes,
We're
that's
not
what we
afraid.
need.
Yeah, we're not afraid to make our female characters be sexy, attractive. There's nothing wrong with that. And so we at the same time we have characters in Dragon Rage that are very strong characters. We also have characters that are very insecure and unsure of themselves, but they go through the hero's journey and develop as they go. You
Yeah.
know, so not all the characters in Dragon Rage are going to be this these very powerful characters. Because I don't think that's relatable
Well,
to.
right. And I think in good storytelling, you kind of need that mix. And unfortunately, a lot of storytelling has been obliterated because of feminist, narratives and also art. And they just make these female characters OP and then make the males look stupid. And they do it on purpose, of course. The entire entertainment industry's kind of lost the plot at this point. And instead of creating stories with the hero's journey, they're more worried about identity politics than a story arc. And they want you to care more about who the character represents, like their identity, rather than what they represent, like larger themes and a story. And that's something it seems that manga hasn't lost. And of course, the indie comic scene is really trying to bring back right now.
Yeah, that's the great thing about being completely independent. At the same time, it's scary because you're solely reliant on backers.
Right.
But the great thing is that it allows us to be creative. We have total creative freedom in here, where I don't have people in suits going, well, we want to appeal to this demographic over here. Where when I would go, why they're not into this at
Right.
all. Why would I change my entire IP, my intellectual property, to incorporate this particular demographic that doesn't even care about this IP? And so that's the great thing about being completely independent.
Yeah. I mean, that's obviously, I do agree, something that is fantastic and reason why so many people want to actively support independent creators now.
And and I, like I said, this is my dream. I get to really just create and world build and create something that's incredible. And my biggest dream is to create an IP that I can leave a legacy. Because as I mentioned, thinking about having that heart failure, and at one time I started to think about my mortality and thinking, like, what would I be leaving behind? And of course, I've got beautiful granddaughters. I love them very much. They are my legacy. But on top of that, I want to leave them something. Just like Robert Howard and Tolkien. I mean, they're leaving things. Frank Frazetta. I mean, leaving stuff. His work is still remembered. It's left to his family. It's his family's legacy, and that's what I want to do for my own family. I hope that I can build up this IP, large enough that it will last throughout time, and it'll be something that not only will the coming generations of my family will remember me by, but fans. So I want this to be, like I said, character driven. I want interesting characters, and I want to create just a story that people remember. So in Dragon Rage, I mean, there's a lot of things going on that are like, there's a lot of brother versus brother. There's betrayal. There's love. There's romance. And there's politics, but politics in the sense of like Game of Thrones, where like they're battling for the Iron Throne. Where here there's battle for this crown of fire, which will then make the wielder of this crown more powerful than the most destructive force in the world of Dragon Rage is a dragon. So it'll make that wielder more powerful than the king of dragons himself. So it's a battle of power, for power. And there's a lot in there. And things like a character's sexuality, like, who cares? Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, that's not the primary
It's
focus.
obviously an important piece of the puzzle to who the character is, but it should only be a piece rather than the entire focus of the character.
Yeah, exactly. Things, that are all put in place where they go. And even with my art, when you see my art, it's very flashy. It does have, it's hyper detailed artwork, which helps me stand out because you don't see that in mainstream comics today, and it's
Yeah,
very
no.
rare. So everything I've drawn is has a purpose. It helps progress and push the story forward. So every bit of art that I draw contributes to the story in one way or another. There's no wasted pages, So in that as well, we're also trying to utilize the 40 pages that we have to tell the best story that we can, giving the readers enough information so that they know what they're reading, what the world is, and at the same time setting up events that are going to start to happen and grow throughout throughout the next set of issues.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to your characters, obviously, in a few minutes we'll get into kind of the details about your characters and you can highlight them some, but it's very funny to have to talk about characters because over the past few years
Yeah.
we've seen, individuals in like Hollywood and at the larger companies basically attack anybody who isn't instantly on board with a character that maybe, might take years to progress. And of course, there's going to be times when you simply don't like a character, but even if that does happen, there is a lot of attacks on not only these characters but also artwork. I'm not trying to compare your artwork or your characters to anything specifically, but it definitely, in my opinion, is pretty reminiscent of Xenoscope. And I always loved how they could take these figures and turn them into very voluptuous female heroines or
Yeah.
anti-heroes. And I really like your artwork and kind of this type of art, as you explained, very detailed artwork. And that, of course, is what people on like social media and outlets have tried to cancel, whether it's in comics or video games or just entertainment in general. And Xenoscope has definitely stuck by their guns. We've seen a level of bending kind of coming from some Japanese creators, but for the most part, a lot of them have stuck to their guns, keeping fan service as part of their product. And of course, for me, the artwork is extremely important, but it's also about the characters, the character development, the journey they go on, whether they're the hero or the villain or somewhere in between. And it definitely sounds like, even though I know you are not the writer for this, you still had a very clear vision of who your characters were going to be, the way they were going to look, and how that was going to kind of mold with their personality.
Yeah, and it's great that the example that you gave there. Grim Fairy Tales is one of the things that I really enjoyed. I loved reading it, and I found that they had a wide range of not only you would just think it would be all male audience, but that's not true. They have a huge female audience, and women.
Me.
Yeah, and there are women out there that are okay with sexy female characters. Because like for me, like I think that's one of the reasons why I looked up to Conan. He was big, he's muscular, he's badass. Wielding this sword. He's just he's a great character to look up to, and I don't want Conan to look just like me. I want
Right.
I would go, yeah, no. If I mean, if I was in Sumerian, or just in this land that Conan's in, I wouldn't make it. I'd be like, where's my inhaler? I
Yeah.
need Allegra. Just the
Yeah.
cedar's too high out here.
Yeah.
That's not the character I want.
Right.
I want the Conan, the fantasy, the big guy. And
Oh yeah, definitely. And I'm
yeah,
not saying Xenoscope is the pinnacle of writing in any way, shape, or form, but I've definitely enjoyed the direction they've, taken with their artwork. And of
yeah.
course, I think when I first had seen your artwork, I was like, wow, this really reminds me of a lot of different things. And they were kind of the example that really popped up in the forefront, of my mind.
Yeah, and so when I was creating the characters, I just thought, okay, I want to create characters that are very interesting visually. I didn't think about at all like, well, I want to make this character a real cheesecake. I didn't want that, and at the same time, I wasn't worried about. Well, I don't want to offend anybody. None of that was, contributed at all to the way that I created my characters. So I just thought, I want to create just visually really cool looking characters that I want to draw. And I also thought to myself, okay, well, what are my strengths, and artistically, like what are my strengths? And I thought, well, I draw the female anatomy very well. So I knew I wanted very attractive female characters in there, but at the same time, I don't want it to solely just be female characters, and
Right.
I want these other, because I like, like I said, I like Conan, The Witcher and stuff like that. And I was incorporating a lot of other things into it. But I just, it's just the way that I draw women. I draw them very well, and I wasn't going to hide the fact that I can draw an attractive woman.
I'm sure plenty of people on social media have gotten a little bit angry with you. Those proportions are not correct. Where are her
Yeah,
organs? How could you do this?
yeah, her booty or the butt. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I've had a few people
classic.
try to gatekeep and a few of those things, but I just keep going. I just keep going. Because if people want to be vocal in that way, but that's fine. They're not my audience.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not gonna buy the book, so
Well, right.
I just let them bark. But I just keep going and finding the people that do appreciate the work that I'm doing.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, obviously, by the backing you have and by the audience you have, there definitely are plenty of people out there who really love what you're doing and ultimately do want to support your vision. And I feel like there's just unfortunately a lack of your type of art and the work that you're doing with Dragon Rage kind of in entertainment in general now. I mean, I talk about it a lot on the channel, but in video games, a lot of women now are kind of toned back. Of course,
Yeah.
comics, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I just think one of the bigger video games that I started playing was my son is really big into Street Fighter, and we started playing Street Fighter 6, and he was really big into it, and I thought the character that I would play was Cammy,
Yeah.
and
She's
in
definitely got some very interesting assets, if we may
yeah,
say.
and I started to hear things about the character, and I just thought, wow. I mean, I liked her classic costume. It's because I'm from Street Fighter 2, that. So I didn't really play like Street Fighter 5 and 6. I didn't play any of those really, and I had stopped playing for a while. And my son got the latest one, and he just said, "Hey, if you get the game, we can play together." And I love my son. I want to spend time with him, And so for me, the character I played was Cammy, and I was like, oh, I liked her classic costume. So when I downloaded it now with the new graphics, I
Yeah.
was playing it, and I was like, wow, this is really. I love the gameplay, but yeah, I started to hear a lot about that character and things, and I just thought, wow, it's that's strange that the way people are so focused on that.
Oh yeah, if you create something or something is created that does not fit their, of course, modern standards, they become so offended by it. And that's something that we see so many creatives do now is kind of bend the knee and say, well, actually, we'll add the little black fabric underneath her outfit, or we'll give her these shorts, or we'll add no cleavage. And it's just so absurd. So it's so nice to see artwork that's not happening to, and we don't have to worry about that happening to.
Yeah, there's definitely no worry about that. I'm here to just create good content. I want a good story, great characters. And like I said, we're not afraid to make our characters masculine. Make because a lot of people out there are talking about toxic masculinity, but they don't even know what masculinity is. And people are calling masculinity just toxic now. It's like, no,
Yeah.
we're not afraid to have our characters be masculine and to have the females be. I mean, for one, there are intelligent female characters. They're strong, but they can still be sexy. It's okay,
Yeah.
to have that. And
Well, I think that's a, good opportunity for you to tell us about, your characters, the world, and also I know that you had some artwork to show off as well.
yeah, I wanted to share some work so that we can kind of get a closer look at at the artwork. Because I know that
Awesome.
some people might be on mobile devices, and maybe it's a little harder when we share the screen of the campaign.
Yeah. Awesome. So I will bring that up for you and then you can handle it from there.
So this is one of my characters. Her name is Nuri, and Nuri is one of the younger characters. She's an orphan. She doesn't really know much about her history or about her family, and we kind of get to discover who Nuri is in her past. There's a secret, but also Nuri has a companion, a fennec fox. So I get a lot of this stuff from some kind of anime. A lot of anime has characters like this, where they always have those little companions, and I love that, and I want to incorporate that because my daughter used to watch a lot of shows and things where they would have these characters, and a lot of them was from Studio Ghibli, and it was Nausicaa, and she had that little companion that would kind of ride around on her shoulder, and it was a great character. But so I incorporate that in here. But not only for that, I didn't want to just make it a novelty character. So this Fennec Fox is actually playing a big role in the story. The writer of Dragon Rage, David Philpott, figured out a way to make that when you guys go, oh my God, it was right there in front of us the whole time, this Fennec Fox. So watch this Fennec Fox as he goes through this journey.
Maybe it's just me as a woman, but I love that. I love any kind of animal or small companion. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, yeah. Well, same here. I mean, I have Chihuahuas,
Yeah.
so maybe it was more than just my daughter liking the pseudo Ghibli stuff, but
Yeah.
it was more for me with my Chihuahuas. So I just thought, it'd be great. This is a chance for me to really just show off what I could do. And going back to the time when I mentioned that, I was reminded that inkers were nobody. And most of the time, people would tell me inkers are tracers. They would just assume an inker could not draw.
Which is, of course, so ridiculous, but
yeah, yeah. People just judge the book by its cover,
yeah.
and they just thought, who are you? You're just an inker. You couldn't create anything visually, appealing or anything. So I still hear that voice in the back of my head when I'm working, and that pushes me to work harder, to show that, what, I can. And so I really get really hyper detailed in my work. So every page is like this. Every panel is very similar to this. But I want people to know that I'm not just really, I didn't get lost in that where I go, oh, I just want to be flashy and just show them how good I can be for the sake of just doing flashy art. Everything in these pages all contribute to the story, even those butterflies. I mentioned earlier, my mother's indigenous, and they believe that butterflies are the spirits of your ancestors. So when you have a butterfly coming by, you're being visited by an ancestor, by their spirit. So I took that idea and put it into my book. And so there are these butterflies, and she has this moment here where she's kind of just kind of like like, it's not really an emotional moment, but it's more of just stopping the pace of the moment, where it's not just flashy artwork, where they're just fighting all the time and action.
Right.
Action.
It's very whimsical. It really gives this environment to kind of the scene. It sets the atmosphere.
Yeah. It's just kind of this moody kind of scene here for a moment where you get a fresh breath of air between the action scenes. And so I think it's really nice to give the reader a moment to catch up, to feel the world of Dragon Rage, because the environment, the world, is a character.
Yeah,
Well.
I mean, it definitely reminds me a lot of like old school Dungeons and Dragons art from, Larry Elmore, one of the original Dungeons and Dragons artists. It's very reminiscent of that. And I absolutely love how detailed it is and how everything plays a part, as you're saying, in the story.
Yeah, thank you. A lot of thought has gone into this, and as well, there's like little things that I kind of just hide in the artwork throughout the story, where it's fun things. It's not like trying to hide any agendas. I take a little frog and I just kind of hide him throughout some panels. So the challenge is for those that back the book, and you mentioned you're a backer, when you get the book, look for the little frog. He's going to be throughout pages. He's going to be just somewhere in the background. There's going to be fun little things like that, just little extras, that not only is it going to be great story for people to read, and good characters, but you're gonna be able to go back and enjoy the artwork and look through the artwork and just go, I didn't see that the first time I looked through.
Right. That's the beauty of having, a series or even, one product where someone has put so much love and effort and attention to detail into it. Because unfortunately, we see so much just really lackluster. It feels like it's very rushed content at this point.
Yeah, that's definitely something that plagues right now. It's like the plight of the mainstream industry is that these guys, for one, their page rates have been lowered. So, in order to make the money they were making before, you've got to work faster, take on more projects.
Right, and you can't put as much effort as you would have or as much attention to that detail.
Yeah, so the industry, the quality is really suffering. Plus, publishers can't afford the caliber of talent that they used to. So now they're outsourcing to, looking for, more, cheaper. I hate to say cheaper, but, just artists that are willing to take a lower page rate. And unfortunately, I mean, you don't, you get what you pay for, you know?
Right. Right. And I completely understand. I don't expect an artist to work overtime when they're being paid the bare minimum, but it is still unfortunate to see because it's still a product that is being given to consumers that have these higher expectations because we've seen their, in some cases, amazing abilities before.
Yeah. Yeah. We have, that's definitely as seems to be what's happening out there. But so, and I can, it's a good time for me to show what I could do
Yeah.
because I have that advantage where, okay, well, one, I could take it just a little bit longer and really just show off. And I, the analogy that I give is like, I compare it to a car, an automobile, where if you don't really care about quality or all the amenities, then you just go out and you get a basic Hyundai,
Right.
or Toyota Corolla or something. But if you care more about performance, more luxury, more amenities, well, then you're going to go out and buy a Bentley. And a Bentley is going to cost more, and it's going to take much more time to have that Bentley before you get delivery on it because it can be custom tailored. And that's
Right.
the same thing with Dragon Rage. Dragon Rage is a Bentley, and it takes a lot more time to build this kind of quality, but it was also custom tailored because my backers also reply. Or when I do live streams, they interact with me. I interact with my backers where you can email me. I give updates. They reply back. There's a on the campaign page, you can actually leave messages and things on there. So backers have asked for certain things. I've custom tailored the campaign to fit their wants and needs.
Right. And I think that that is also great because as we talk about a lot, the industry, the mainstream industry definitely is not doing that. They are completely ignoring what people want. They
Yeah.
are pumping out, unfortunately, mostly mediocre content. And of course, we have artists who end up, like you said, not being paid the amount that maybe they could for a higher level of work, or even artists straight up using AI assets. And of course, you're not. So,
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, where I go, I think there are some 3D assets that I think, okay, I could see an artist using to help speed up the time because it's so laborsome. I mean, it takes a lot of hours and a lot of labor goes into this. But when it gets to the point where they're just using that just to hack out work, just to
right. That, in my opinion, and I know many other people's, is completely unacceptable. Of course, everybody could use that to a certain extent, but you should be using it more as a tool and not leaning solely on that.
well said, thank you. I can draw. I can. I'm not that great with words, but I can draw you pictures and tell you what I'm, what
Yeah.
the point that I'm trying to get to. Yeah, I mean, so I love using digital. I'm digital now because I like using the technology to help me speed up and work faster, more efficiently, where I don't have to work as hard, but not meaning that I'm not putting in the effort. So I'm still in the traditional mindset where I draw everything.
Right.
I still draw, everything that I do. I still work in a very traditional setup, even though I'm just now using a different tool. I'm just using digital now.
Yeah.
And with digital, it allows me to zoom in a little more. It allows me the opportunity to experiment where I can easily just erase, undo what I did, do it again. Where so that allows me to do much more experimenting, and with that experimenting comes growth. I can grow as an artist by not
Right.
having that limitation of like, well, if I change it with ink, it's permanent. I can't undo the ink. Where digital,
Right.
I
And I
can.
saw actually somebody super chat, it was Poncho, had asked, if what you thought was the percentage of comic artists who mainly use traditional materials now or digital, or if it's kind of a mix or a hybrid of both. And I'm sure that you could also, talk about your project there as well.
Yeah, I started out as a traditional artist. I've learned traditional art, for since 1990 when I started, and then I broke in 91. And Now with the current technology, I want to stay relevant. I want to keep up with the competition. So for me, I saw digital as the new technology coming in. I got to meet a couple of mangakas. I got to meet a couple of different artists from overseas, and they introduced me to Clip Studio Paint and to taught me the basics of it. And I thought, I want to start incorporating this. And there are really talented artists out there. I mean, I don't want to say that everybody in the mainstream isn't talented. I mean,
Oh yeah,
there's,
no. I mean, there are definitely still extremely talented people. I could never do what some of them do. I could never do what you do, but
thank you. And so I think in order to keep that edge, keep going, you have to continue to move forward. So learning digital didn't mean that I was going to become less of an artist or anything. It just meant I was going to learn a new medium because
yeah,
I now have the advantage where if I want to draw traditional, I draw traditional. If somebody
right.
wants an original piece of art, I can give that to them.
Yeah,
But if I want to be able to work faster, more efficiently, I know the technology. I have the knowledge now to use the modern technology that's there.
right.
And I think what sets my digital work apart that people can't really spot that it's digital most of the time is because of the fact that I have that knowledge and experience of traditional. I know what it's like to actually draw on paper,
Right.
to actually ink on Bristol board on paper. And I know what that work should look like. So
Right.
I can recreate it digitally and give people what they're used to seeing, that type of traditional style. But they don't realize that it took me half the amount of time because being able to take advantage of the digital technology.
Yeah, I mean it's whatever works for you, but at the end of the day, you're still putting out a really, really good product.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, I do. I still spend a lot of time, even though I'm digital, because digital allows you to zoom in and you could go in and really you could put in more detail. So it's easy to go down that rabbit hole, and it allows me to experiment where I try so many different things. I have this vision in my head of where I want the art to end up at.
Right.
And with digital throughout my process as I'm working,
Chat is going crazy right now saying I'm trying to get the friend rate with you because I keep complimenting your art. Anyway, continue.
oh no, thank you. No, you got the friend rate when you're like, yeah, you can come on my channel.
Yeah.
you, but now with
See,
all the
chat, I'm cool. I have friends.
yeah, and now that now all those compliments you have unlocked your spot on my Christmas list. So
Nice.
yeah, so you're gonna get a Christmas letter with me and my
Nice.
Chihuahua.
Ah,
With both of
I
us
like it.
dressed alike in the same ugly Christmas sweater. No, yeah. So this is one of the characters, and I think by making the characters have limitations in their powers. So in the world of Dragon Rage, there's a race of humans that have a rare ability, and that we call them the Dragari. They're called Dragari. So they have this rare ability that what they can do is when they conquer and defeat a dragon, they can take the dragon's rage, which is the source of its power. It's like taking the dragon's like life force,
Yeah.
and and what they do is they are able to wield the powers of that dragon as their own powers. So the more dragon rage that they start to tap into, the more dragon-like they become. But the risk that they run is the more dragon rage that they are starting to absorb and tap into, the less human they are.
Right. So it's got its pros and its cons to do.
Yeah, it takes a lot of discipline, a lot of balance, things like that, because think about it today. I mean, I'm Texan. I don't know if very many people out there are, we have firearms. That takes a lot of responsibility to own a firearm. Think
Yeah.
about the abuse that can happen with it, within type of control, but it takes a lot of discipline to have it as well. So that's the same thing here with the Dragon's Rage. In the wrong hands, it's very dangerous. As well, and it does take a lot of discipline. So this is one character who's tapping into more Dragon Rage, and he's starting to transform and change. This is actually him when he was leaning down. He's kind of defeated. He's leaning down and he's losing the fight. So he's like, he knows that he has more power at his fingertips. He could just tap into it. It's very seductive. It's very addictive. To have this type of power, and so it's very easy to cross that line. And so when he does, he taps into more dragon rage, making him more powerful. But the problem is, the rage takes over. It's more in control than he is.
Right.
And it's fun to draw these characters too.
I was going to say, I've read the Indiegogo and I've been following this journey for a while, but it does sound, it sounds very reminiscent of, there's plenty of dragon-based pieces of content that exist now, but I feel like yours is still different. It's not like the traditional dragon riding, or it's just a dragon that talks like a human, or a dragon that's almost animalistic. It's still it's pretty unique approach. It reminds me, of course, I know chat's going to bring it up, of Skyrim, how you have the Dragonborn. It's kind of reminiscent of that, one of my favorite games of all time. I know chat is saying it, but it's still different.
Yeah, and I think it's okay, to have something that, like I invent people, that can, have some kind of dragon-like features and things like that. No, but it's what you do with it. It's
right.
it's like Bram Stoker with the idea of the vampire. He did he invent vampires? No, he didn't. He didn't invent it, but he made it much more. He added to the mythology, and he created just a whole nother like subgenre of vampires, and I'm hoping to do that the same thing
Right.
here.
It reminds me of, Anne McCaffrey. She came up with the kind of more modern sense of dragon riding, where, of course, people, when they think of dragon riding now, might think of George R. R. Martin's work, because, of course, A Song of Ice and Fire is so spectacular. But she was the one who really took that concept and established it to what it is today.
Yeah. So I don't get offended at all when people say, like, oh, that's something in Skyrim, and I kind of like that, because I want it to still feel familiar to people, but in the sense where they go, okay, because this is a new IP, you have no idea what it is at this point, but I want people to go, okay, kind of like the Jedi in Star Wars, but these are
Right.
Dragari who have this rare ability, kind of like the Force, or kind of like Skyrim. So it's a little familiar to them. So they go, okay, I kind of get where you're going with this, and they're willing to take a chance on it. But when they read it, my goal is for them to go, oh yeah, no, this is different than what I thought it was.
Yeah, and I feel like that is something that, does happen, is people are afraid to get into a new franchise or IP because they feel that there is that barrier there. But when it feels slightly familiar, and I could sit here and say it's like X, Y, and Z, like Skyrim, it's kind of got that Dungeons and Dragons feel. People are like, oh, that's actually sounds like something that's right up my alley. But then, of course, yeah, they consume the content and then they see, wow, it's so much different than that, but I see the similarities.
Yeah, because I think I think that's a good recipe, is to have some things in there that are familiar, and at the same time, even though I'm doing high fantasy, I've also based some reality into this, where in this, when I'm designing and drawing my dragons in Dragon Rage, I researched and I looked at iguanas. I looked at bats for the bat wing, because I want them to look as if they could be real.
Right.
So I do some research in some things, and I base some things in reality, that where people go, I know this isn't real, but if it was, this is how it would look.
Right.
So there's a nice mixture in there. And then I'm making a comic book, so I want them to also kind of a little sprinkle of superhero in it, where people are used to that superhero,
the character dynamics and
yeah.
the alignments of characters, of course. But yeah, I definitely agree.
Now I do have some more artwork on the campaign that is edited now, because I'm heavily influenced by anime, The Witcher, things like that, where this genre does there is nudity in that genre. It's quite often we find that in there. In Dragon Rage, there is nudity in it, but it isn't gratuitous. It isn't there just for the sake of just for cheesecake or anything. It's all part of the story. In Dragon Rage, so there is slight nudity in there. So I wouldn't recommend it. If anybody's going to back it and want to get it for a child, it's not the book.
Right.
This is
definitely
because the story's going to be
not.
so complex. Like, I mean, I wouldn't give Game of Thrones to, you know, or Harry Potter to a well, I mean, I guess you could Harry Potter, but with Game of Thrones, I wouldn't give that book to a small child because the story is going to be very complex and have mature themes in it and stuff.
Oh yeah, of course. But I mean, yeah, I definitely see a lot of people in chat talking about how, they are excited for not only to see more of your work, but of course the themes that you do have in it, and of course the story that you are planning to tell. If you just want to maybe give a very short description of your story, or maybe where it kicks off, that could help
Yeah.
people that might not know your work.
Yeah, well, I mean, if to get the synopsis of the story, if you go to the campaign page, there's a story synopsis. So if you want to read the story synopsis, you guys can there. But in Dragon Rage, since we're building this world of Dragon Rage, and a lot of people go, well, I've got so much ideas, and that was me, going, I got so many ideas, I've got all this stuff that I want to bring in a Dragon Rage, and so my writer, he really helped me organize that chaos. So what we decided to do is we decided to introduce 6 characters, or 3 main characters that will eventually become the good characters, and the 3 characters that will be on the side of more of not necessarily villains. I mean, because I don't know if anyone's really a villain in this, but where there are those that believe they're doing good, but they're not
Right.
necessarily, but they're willing to do whatever it takes to achieve their agenda. And so we start introducing these characters individually, and you get to introduce these characters, and they're all on their own adventures. And then we start to see them slowly start to come together, and these characters eventually meet and become a part of a bigger story.
Right.
So we're not trying to have everybody digest so much so quickly. It is a bit slower, but in the world of Dragon Rage, there was a time where there were dragons, and dragons and men were living together, and the dragons were the guardians of men. Then it was discovered that a human could take the rage of a dragon. So at that time, dragons, when they were going to expire, they would willingly give their rage to, ancient dragons would then willingly give their rage to certain kings and certain people that were powerful, because the older the dragon is, the more powerful they are. So they started to figure out, discover, we could be as powerful as a dragon. We no longer have to fear dragons. And what if we had an army of Dragari? So somebody started to hunt down dragons to take their rage, building an army of Dragari to become the most powerful kingdom. Then generations later, there is now, where we are now in the story, somebody is now hunting down the Dragari, killing them, taking their rage, collecting it, and building this fabled crown of fire, that whoever wields this crown of fire will be the most powerful being on the planet, be more powerful than the Dragon King, Demargo, because the Dragon King himself, no one has ever been able to conquer him. He's the last standing dragon, and he's hidden in the world of Dragon Rage. People don't know where he is. He's and he's the most powerful being in there. So imagine having this crown of fire, what people would do to have this power. And then there is a small group that we're introduced to who realize they have to stop this. They can't let somebody wield this crown. They have to stop it from happening, and that's the story. That's where Dragon Rage begins.
Done, done, done. Well, chat, I did link it quite a few times in chat, and of course it is in the description in case you are interested, of course, in checking it out yourself. But yeah, we're going to be wrapping up relatively shortly here. Feel free to, talk more about your project, about your art, your timeline, whatever you feel like you want to get out to the audience.
Yeah, I want people to know that the funds have already been invested back into the company, and I've already have gone out and already printed all the things that need to be printed. I've gotten all the flash mailers. I've gotten everything. There's a lot of logistics that go into crowdfunding and having to fulfill. So I've already gotten the mail service. I've already gotten the printer for it, the label printer, all the bags and boards, everything that has to go into it. But not only that, when I saw that my campaign reached its goal and went beyond that, I decided that for those that back the Give Me Everything tier that's on my campaign page, I had these printed up. These are custom mailers. And so when you get the big package, when you're getting all the comic books, they're all going to go inside this box, which actually has All the has artwork on it. So it's got the cover.
That is one beautiful artwork
It's
and a
got
beautiful box.
yeah, it's got art all the way around. And then this is David Finch art right here on the side. Not only that, then on the bottom, it also has all the characters right there on the bottom. And this is the group right here that's going to try to stop the Crown of Fire from happening. And these are the guys that are more of like you think of them like a Sith Lords. These are the kind of dark Dragaris. But not, we don't call them dark Dragaris. But these
I
are,
know Chad is most interested in her. I already know.
yeah. And so everybody, no matter what you, oh, and also your perks in this box will also come inside of a polybag mailer that says thank you right there. Look at that. It's me, my gratuity here, just saying, I am so thankful that you guys made my dream come true. That I'm going to make sure that your comics not only are in bags and boards, they're going to go inside this poly mailer. It's double sided on the other side. Your comics will go inside that, then inside this box. And that's when you get the very big give me everything tier. So when you invest that kind of money, I want you guys to know it's going to be delivered in something very, very beautiful and attractive. Not only that, if you decide, hey, I like collecting this stuff and I want to keep it nice and safe after that amount I invested in it, you can put it on your shelf and it has a spine right here if you want it to. It says DRAGONRAGE and it'll fit on your
All
shelf right
these
there.
small details that matter so much that some people just honestly don't think about.
Yeah, a lot of creativity goes into things. I'm trying to be creative in everything I do. But every backer, you will get a bookmark right here for free. It's going to come in no matter what you back. So Vara, since you backed, you're going to get this right here. It's David Finch art. It's double
I'm
sided.
special. I get something special.
Look at that.
Finally.
Yeah, Dragon Rage. In case you're like me, you got to read comic books and you got to bookmark your comic book. You're like, that's a lot of reading, man. It's a lot of word balloons,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so we're, giving back to the backers as much as can. I want backers to know, Spectre laughing. I want backers to know that, how much they're appreciated, because without you, the backer, this wouldn't have happened. This wouldn't be a reality. So, I want people to know that from everything, from even just reading the book, looking at the artwork, all the way from everything that they receive,
Yeah, I mean, again, I see, the chat is absolutely praising you. I know Poncho had said product design, practical and well thought out. And I completely agree. There's so many small details that end up meaning so much, especially when, again, so many people are putting their faith into you to deliver them a really good product. And
Yeah.
you are definitely someone that I think we can all see clear as day is very passionate about their work and making sure that you don't lose the respect that you have with your audience and making sure that you end up giving them what they've given you in return.
Yeah, because I'm going to be, I can be easily held accountable because all my backers, the audience that I have has easy access to me. I mean, can you imagine, like, if you had George R. Martin's email and you read Game of Thrones for the first time, and you could go, hey, I have a question about the story, or hey,
hey, are you ever going to end this?
Yeah,
the
yeah.
the last book came out half my lifetime ago. Okay, I'm in struggle land here. Whew.
But so I think about it. I mean, this book, you'll be able to interact with the creator. You'll have access to the creator. And those that have, invested into DRAGONRAGE this early on, imagine if, the best case scenario, it becomes a Netflix show, a video game. You get to play it on PlayStation. You can say, you know what? You can tell family and friends, I helped out with that project. I was a backer when this was, nobody knew what it was,
Right. And I see someone BGC in chat saying it makes me feel like as a customer, I matter, which I definitely think is what, so many people are looking for now, or to, support projects that they also feel support. They also feel like they matter, which is, of course, in your case, and a lot of independence cases, a fantastic way because you are part of the process in this case with DRAGONRAGE.
Yeah, I think what's happened is a lot of corporations are more cared about their investors, and they've just got stockholders and things, and they're just more worried about numbers, and profit and things like that, where they're disconnected. They're no longer It's no longer about the creativity and the fans.
Right.
It's no longer about the IP. They're willing to take it away from long term fans to try to experiment and try to find a newer generation of fans. And I
Yeah.
think if the fans that have been there with you from the start, they matter equally as much as new, maybe even more than some of the potential and newer, fans.
Yeah, definitely. I for sure agree. I also see another super chat. We're thirsty. We're hurting. This is what we need. Thank you, Jimmy, for getting it.
Wow. No, thank you. I appreciate, you guys, letting me, come out here and talk Dragon Age and just hang out with you guys. You have a great audience, by the way. These guys are
Well,
great,
they
great
do like
chat.
to troll me a little bit. They do like to
Yeah.
make fun of me a little bit, but I do agree they are a fantastic audience. And of course, your project is again. I was so excited to have you on, and in the future, I'd love to have you back. And of course, over the next couple of weeks, I'll definitely be, sharing your content more. And this interview will be on the channel. This chat will be on the channel. So hopefully, it also brings more eyes to your project going forward too.
Yeah, that'd be great. And also, maybe we can bring on the writer of Dragon Rage.
Yeah.
He can talk writing and stuff. I mean, he's just a very, very great guy. Easy to get along with. He's super intelligent, and he's a damn good writer.
Yeah, I mean,
He's
I'd love
really,
to
really good.
have you back on and maybe him at the same time, and you guys could
Yeah,
talk more about your project. Definitely.
yeah, definitely. We can do it from a writing perspective, and
Yeah.
yeah, give people more detail on the story and stuff.
Awesome. Well, if you have anything else you would like to quickly shill, your social media, website, where everyone can find you, I will bring back, of course, the Indiegogo page up so that everybody can
Nice.
can see it again. But it is in chat. It is in the description for anybody that wants to go and support it.
Yeah, actually, if you guys go to jimmyreyesart.com, you can sign up for my newsletter. And in my newsletter, in there, I do share different things like updates, like conventions. I just got invited out to a couple of conventions within the next month or two. So if you're in Texas, I'll be doing some local conventions in Texas.
I know we do have quite a few individuals in the audience in Texas.
All right. Yeah, it'd be great to meet people, in person and then on top of that as well, I mean, in my newsletter, I also create digital products. So I have brushes. If you guys want to use the exact same brushes that I'm using in Clip Studio Paint when I draw, they're available on there, and not all of them are for sale. Some of them are free. I have wallpaper. If you want Dragon Rage wallpaper, on this campaign page at the very bottom, there's a link that will take you to where you can download two different versions of the wallpaper to put for your desktop with of the Dragon Rage characters.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, also, I saw somebody ask in chat, are there artists that use 3D, for example, Blender, ZBrush to make comics? Quick question for you.
I do know of two artists that do use Blender that are friends of mine. But I don't know if they. I know that they use them to kind of create environments. Then I think they draw over it, but I don't think they're completely using 3D for a comic book. I would, I think the advantage that we have as artists that draw our work is that when you just draw it straight from imagination, it looks more dynamic and it has more personality because it's from your style
Right.
and it's not perfect. So I think that just gives it more interesting flair. So I'd encourage, artists to try not to depend on that. But if you absolutely have to, I don't see why you couldn't.
Cool. But yeah, if you have anything else you'd like to say about Dragon Rage, feel free.
No, thank you. That was everything. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate your time. You guys are amazing. I also do have my own YouTube channel as well. And so if you guys are interested and want to learn more about artwork and my process, my channel is focused on art tutorials, and it's focused on giving tips and techniques and stuff like that. And you can watch me
Awesome.
draw the book Dragon Rage live. So if you're a backer, you can you guys can, subscribe to my YouTube channel and you'll see me go live. And I'm actually working on the page of the book, working on a future page of the book that you're going to receive. So you get to
Sheesh.
get to watch it, get to watch it as it's happening.
Well, that is very exciting. Everything is linked in the description, guys, in case any of you all want to check out the links to the Indiegogo, Twitter, website, YouTube, all of that fun stuff. But yeah, chat. With that being said, that's going to conclude our talk. Of course, everything is linked in the description, and I will be live again tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. Eastern, for my normal stream. Jimmy, it was fantastic having you on. I'm
Thank
glad,
you.
and hopefully
Thanks.
I can have you back on again soon. We can talk more Dragon Rage and, the state of the industry and all that.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, chat, for being here the past few hours. Thank you for hanging out. Links are all in the description. Make sure to check it out. And yeah, with that being said, I'm wrapping up. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for stopping by, and have a fantastic rest of your evening, everyone.